For help.
Welcome to Jay Silver Presents, where we present the best in esports from your favorite players. In this case, I have the absolute pleasure to interview my dear friend Kangas after his first cast on the LTA.
Notably not a player.
Not a player. Well,
you have to work on the title, yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing for so long. You know what I mean. Kangas is. I'm so happy to finally get to interview you. How are you doing after your first cast on the? I know you. This is not your first stage cast.
Yes.
But this is your first LTA cast.
Yeah. So I've done a couple of LCS casts in the LCS arena or Riot Games arena, and I've worked a lot of their finals road shows. So
Right.
I've been around the scene. Some people might recognize me for like, oh, I've seen him every now and then, but I've never really been like a mainstay on the broadcast. But this is my first year where I will be more regular on the broadcast throughout 2025. So I'm very excited. And how do I feel afterwards? I don't think it's settled in because I just finished.
Yeah.
And I have this thought. I'm sure a lot of people out there, if you work in performance or like any kind of performative field, it's hard to feel good when you walk away from a performance or from a broadcast.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking of like, ooh, like I wish I could have done that different or like ended this differently. But usually once that voice goes away, then I can actually critically process how the day went.
Yeah.
And then feel better about it. So right now I think I'm still in that like, just starting to wind down moment.
I feel that. You and I have been friends for about 3 years or so now, and I know a lot of the NICL people came up to you today. How does it feel to have so much support for your initial announcement that you were going to be joining full-time as the LTA caster, but also just like so much of the community is happy to see you get your shot?
Well, I mean, it means the world. The community, the league community is dedicated, to say the least, especially the Tier 2 community. The people
Right.
that watch NACL and really follow that scene, they either do it because they know somebody in the league or because they just really care about North American League of Legends. And I'm proud of the show that we've been able to build at the Tier 2 level and being a very active part of that. It's hard to walk away from that and say goodbye, but it does feel good to feel the support because those are the people that have seen the work that's gone into it. Because I've been casting for 8 years now, League of Legends, going on 9 years. And only about half of that time was with Riot directly. So a lot of it, we all came up from the amateur leagues, the like Tier 3, like the gold and silver leagues, like shout out Compete League, shout out Upsurge, if any OGs remember those ones.
I think I remember those names.
Yeah. Now it's like Aegis. Shout out Aegis. They're kind of like the current one doing a lot of stuff. But you spend enough time dedicated towards a craft, and eventually, if you stick with it, and you keep improving, then you can make it to the top levels.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about another one of your ventures in a little bit. But I do want to ask about just overall, what is it like actually casting League of Legends? I've interviewed Flowers before. I know that it's not always, everyone thinks like, oh, super rapid fire. But there's a lot of champion names you need to know, a lot of ability names you need to know. And then obviously working with your color casters. What is it like really like casting League of Legends?
So the way that I explain like the process of actually being in a game casting League of Legends with a co-caster is you're basically processing 3 strings of information with your brain at one time. Number 1, you are watching the game and processing the information in the game, what's happening, and you're interpreting. Number 2, you're processing what do I want to say about what is happening. And number 3, it kind of bounces with number 2 is that you're listening to your co-caster. So if I'm casting with Kobe, I'm listening to what he's talking about. I need to be actively hearing what he's saying and the points he's making while processing the game state in my own opinion and formulating my own thoughts of how I'm going to respond to Kobe. So there's a lot of mental brain power that happens in a broadcast that a lot of people that have never tried it, they won't really think about. But I like to think of it that way because it helps me contextualize, okay, where was I weak in this cast? Was I not listening well enough? Or was I just blank brain not processing well enough? Or was I processing but I wasn't taking the step of like thinking ahead of time what I want to say? And when you break it down into like those kind of 3 lanes, I find it's easier to do VOD reviews and such.
Right.
But that's essentially what it is yes, there's the mechanics of knowing all the champion names and like saying those correctly and being fast enough to like keep up with the game, but a lot of it is just information processing.
Gotcha. Yeah. Is there a champion whose abilities you will never remember?
Hui. I'm working on it, but Hui, dude, that guy's got too many abilities. I'm happy with myself. I just got Heimerdinger down. Because Heimerdinger, have you ever looked at Heimerdinger's abilities?
Isn't it like MK?
No. It's H28, no, G2H8 Evolution Turret, Hextech Micro Rocket, GH2, something Storm Grenade, Electron Storm Grenade,
yeah. And then the obviously Evolve or
Upgrade
with
is 2 exclamation points.
And all
that's
caps.
the random stuff that's in my brain at all times. Like you don't understand. You're gonna ask me a question about Yu-Gi-Oh later, which is a completely different game. But the amount of information in my brain that is just worthless to the human race, like, does not help our advancement at all. But is simply stuff that's rattling around in my head. It's shocking. So
yeah, no, we will talk about
explains
Yu-Gi-Oh.
a lot.
Yeah, we will talk about Yu-Gi-Oh in a second, because obviously I'm also a player in that field as well. I've been fortunate to watch you cast those games as well. I'm curious, what is it like working with people like Captain Flowers, working with Raz, basically the LTA crew who's been here for a solid amount of time. What's it been like working with them?
At this point, like today, working with them all, I've worked with them enough that it doesn't feel like no shade on them, but like I've gone through the process of like, oh, I've watched Flowers since I was in college, or I've watched Kobe since I was in college, and like having these voices that I'm so familiar with from a viewer, I've gotten the chance to work with them enough times that I'm kind of past that of like, oh, it feels super special. Now I'm like, no, this is my job. This is what I do now. But there were times when I was early on, like the first couple of casts I did, where that really does weigh on you. You're like, whoa, like I'm in the same meeting with these, industry legends. Because when you're coming in from the tier 2 scene, a lot of it is, you utilize the work that the people above you do to frame your own style. And a lot of people have, like you said, when I was developing up as a caster, I was kind of like a Budget Flowers. So I was always fighting that allegation of like, I don't want to sound like a Budget Flowers. I want to be me and be somebody else. So it's he's actually worked with me and helped me like a lot in kind of developing that style. But a lot of those nerves happened earlier in the career.
No, I definitely know. And having talked to Flowers, I know for a fact that he does like to help a lot of.
Oh, he's super helpful. Yeah, if anybody out there who's like a tier 2 caster or even below, shoot a message. Worst case scenario, he just won't have time, but he's really nice. Flowers is great for helping you prep.
Yeah. We did talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! I do want to ask a little bit about the YCSs. For those who do not know, Kangas works with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series, which does road shows all over the country. You've actually started to become more of a host for that, kind of cementing for the first time. Obviously, you have Billy Break, you have Jerome McHale, who usually are the hosts, but you've started to cement yourself as a host.
Yeah, so Konami, sorry to cut you off. Do you have like somewhere you're going with that? Or
you know exactly where I'm going with that.
So Konami, I kind of accidentally got involved with Konami, funnily enough. So the story goes, I was working on Wild Rift way back in the day, in like 2022, and the studio that was doing production for that also got a contract with Konami to do something with Master Duel, which is the Steam game. Check it out. It's a great game, great way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's actually easy to unlock the in-game currency. Plug done. So they worked with a production studio that knew me and just knew I was a Yu-Gi-Oh fan. So they're like, hey, we know this guy. Like, do you want to interview him? I had never made a reel. I had made it 6 years of my career, 5 years of my career, never having like a show reel. And I actually had to make one because Konami wanted to see a reel. So I had to build one for the first time. Presented it to them, they liked it, they hired me, and then that year they brought me to Worlds, and then that was 2024, or 2023. 2024 now, they've got me onto the road shows, and still mostly hosting. I get to commentate a couple of the games, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very complex game.
Unfortunately.
I can hang, but not at the level that Konami wants their broadcasters to have, which is completely understandable. But mostly what I'm doing is hosting and kind of like hyping up the crowd and doing interviews and stuff like that.
I was like, quick, tell me all the Malice Trap cards. I'm kidding. No.
No.
There is one card I did want to ask you about.
Sure.
You got a little bit of flack in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community about Dimension Shifter.
I did. I did.
So you want to explain that story?
Never critically looked at the card, and this is something about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. They are very passionate. I love the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. And there's been a lot of debate on what pronoun to use for Dimension Shifter. I was unaware of this, and I've honestly never fully looked at the card. So just in the heat of a moment, doing a bit live on broadcast, I, as an official Konami representative, confirmed, and that made a lot of people upset.
Yeah, no.
Which, again, I am not a subject matter expert on this. Please do not hold what my stupid mouth says as true.
I knew when I got the chance, I'm like, I have to ask you about Dimension Shifter because it's just a notoriously plagued card and just competitive and also in that. 2 more questions for you because I know your time is short and you've got friends who are here. Number 1, for many people who want to be casters, who want to really follow in your shoes, follow in the shoes of some of your NACL casters, also the LTA casters, what advice do you have for these individuals?
The advice changes over the years because, full disclosure, opportunities have gotten a little less. Like I had referenced Compete League, Upsurge. I'm blanking on one, but there was a third one that was kind of notable. Well, Aegis is current, but back when I was developing, there were a couple different amateur organizations that you could cast for. You'll usually start in like the Gold, Silver leagues, but you can work up to Plat, Diamond, and then Masters Plus, and then like the Challengers and stuff. But the advice is still basically the same, where if you're interested in getting involved, get involved in the community. Number one, just be active on social media, be active on Reddit, find the posts about these events that are happening and have a voice, have an opinion, watch them, be in Twitch chat, engage with the community, because once you're part of the community and you start just having conversations with people like, hey, I want to start trying it, that's how you make the right connections. That's how I was able to do a lot of it, is I was just like, I liked casting for fun for like my own small collegiate league that we ran in Minnesota called MNLCS. And then that was our community, and I did that for like 2 years before I ever connected with the greater casting community. And so once I did, people were like, wait a minute, this guy actually kind of like knows what he's doing, because I'd had enough time to prep. But if you're just starting off, just get involved in any way. Help volunteer with a team, help volunteer with the broadcast, and say, I'll help produce. I want to cast, but at some point, but like just start doing that and then do the casting on your own and have fun. What I used to do is I would just mute LCS and chill with my roommate on the couch, and we just pretend that we were shoutcasters. That was the first time I ever did casting. It was awful. It's terrible. Our other roommates would just laugh at us from the other room, like, you guys suck. And we're like, yeah, but like, it's fun.
And now look at you now.
And look who's laughing now. Jack Schulte and Sam McVeigh. That's right, I'm calling you out.
I bet they're not watching my interview.
Probably
but we'll find out.
I'll clip it and send it to them.
Lastly, is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Thank you, everybody that supports League of Legends in North America. I know that it's a crazy time right now. LCS is gone. LTA North and LTA South have taken the place. We are now the Americas region. I know change can feel weird. I know that I'm a new face on the broadcast. Change feels weird. But thank you, everybody who sticks around and watches regardless, because you're the reason that we do this. I mean, the players put on the show, but you're the reason that it exists, because you're watching. So thank you for watching.
All right, with that, that's all the questions I have. Kangas, it really is a pleasure to get to interview you. And I cannot wait to see what you do throughout the course of the year.
Appreciate it.